Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my parents' basement in the great state of Kansas. And this is a special video that I've been meaning to do for my friend Mike from Did You See That? And this is actually because he came in second in my predicting the Oscars contest this last Oscar season. And for second place, he got to pick, I had him choices of picking a movie franchise he wanted me to watch and review, or an album or a band that he wanted me to deep dive and review all their albums and review the band or something like that. Mike is, if you know Mike, his channel is a movie channel. Did you see that? He reviews movies. That's really where his expertise is at, I guess you can say. And I was not expecting him to pick a band for me to deep dive. And not only that, but he picked a band I've never heard of before. Totally out of nowhere. Anyway, so he picked a band called Run Kid Run. Yeah, I was really shocked he picked this because I was like, Run Kid Run? I have no idea who Run Kid Run is. And I know Mike, I know listens to some music, but I don't hear him talk a lot about music. So it was interesting to hear that this was a kind of Christian rock band that he evidently enjoyed or liked or knew about in the 2000s, basically. And so, yeah, so it's very interesting to get this suggestion and have to go down and try to deep dive this band I never heard of. And, of course, I'm a Christian, so I've heard of different big Christian bands and rock bands and all that. And so this is interesting. This band was never on my radar. And when they were kind of doing their thing, I was kind of in my last couple years of college. So, I mean, I was still listening to music probably at that point, to new music. And I was going to church, and I don't know, I didn't listen to a lot of Christian rock, but I listened to some, and I knew people that liked it. So, but yeah, Run Kid Run, interesting. So, yeah, so I had to go through and listen to their albums and kind of try to do as much research as I could on the band. And I found that I couldn't find a lot of information on this band. The Wikipedia page is very small, so I don't have a lot to say, like what this band is, but I did listen to their albums that you can find on Spotify, nicely enough, so I was able to get to all their albums and kind of give my thoughts on what I thought about the music overall. But yeah. What I find interesting about Run Kid Run, and I don't know if Mike knows this, but they actually started out as a different band and kind of transitioned to Run Kid Run. They originally were a punk rock band, a Christian punk rock band called Sidewalk Slam. If you know Sidewalk Slam, that's a wrestling term, it's a wrestling move. That's where they got the name anyway. So the members of the band, we got David Josiah Curtis, who's the lead vocalist and guitar player. Neil Endicott, who's one of the guitar players and also plays piano. Paul Stewart, who plays bass, and Matt Jackson, who plays drums. I forget if that's how the band started. I think that's the way they were when they became Run Kid Run. It might have been, I want to say maybe there's only like 3 members during this Sidewalk Slam years, and then they added a member. So I didn't write that down, but I think it was something like that if I remember right. But yeah, so they originated in 1996. So I mean, we're talking almost 30 years ago that they actually formed as a band in Illinois. They're a band from Illinois, and so they started doing gigs, I guess, around Illinois, wherever they were in Illinois, and they ended up making their own debut album in 1999. So I was about a freshman in high school at this point, and it was a self-released album called Rock Anthems from the Midwest. But it's, it's a self-made, album, so it's very low production value. It's very cheaply made and all that. But it got enough recognition, I guess, or they did, that they actually signed on with a small record company called Tooth and Nail Records, which evidently did some Christian rock music, a little more, like I said, a little more lesser known, record company. Anyways, and that's where they got their start, with the Tooth and Nails record company. So in 2000, they signed on with actually a different record company called Boot to Head Records, which is, I guess, maybe a little higher up, I suppose, than Tooth and Nail Records. And they released their album there called 2 Steps Forward and 5 Steps Back. And so that's their first kind of record with Sidewalk Slams that you can find on Spotify. So 2 Steps Forward and 1 Step Back. It's interesting because it's the first album, like I said, rock anthems from the Midwest is not an album you can find on Spotify, but you can find 2 Steps Forward and 5 Steps Back. So that's kind of like their first album made by a record company. It's interesting. Still, the production value is not great, and it's kind of a long album if I remember right. It was a little too many songs on it. Musically, it's actually not bad. It's actually still pretty good. It's punk rock. It's kind of more pop punk, I would say. It's a little more poppier than just like regular punk rock. And I'm actually a fan of pop punk. I recently reviewed an album on our album exchange, Anatomy of the Tongue in Cheek by Relient K, which is a pop punk Christian band, and really loved that album and love the sound overall. And I think of bands like Green Day really went more pop, and Blink-182 had more of a pop sound to them, and they have a little bit of a punk also overall feel. So that's kind of what their sound was, and overall not bad actually. Instrumentally, overall pretty good. I think the lead singer actually has a decent voice overall. They're not like high tier, like I said, Green Day, Blink-182. They're not at that level, but still not bad. I think still got a really good sound overall. The problem with that album, like I said, it's too many songs, and they actually remake a lot of their songs on the next album. And so I would say skip this album because a lot of great stuff will be coming out to the next album, and it's a little more polished, I think, on the next album, and a little better production value. So they toured with 2 other bands from the Tooth and Nail Records, and that's where they got signed on. Got noticed, I guess, by the Boot to Head Records while they're touring. So their next album is called Past Remains, which came out in 2001, so only a year later. And like I said, this was a much better album, I think, overall. And a lot of the really good songs from the first album, they do again on the second album, Past Remains. And I think it's even better. Really, it sounds even better on the Past Remains album. And so I'll say Past Remains, I thought it was a really good album. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 overall. It's almost to a 9, which is like an album I really love. I think it's because they just had a lot of material that they had written at that point, and that they were, already did on the first album, and they took the best songs and did on the second album and added some other stuff to it. Overall, actually a really good, like I said, Christian pop punk album. I think I was really impressed from from a band I never heard of. And this is Sidewalk Slam. This is before they become Red Kid Run. I decided that I'd go through the Sidewalk Slam since they're basically the same band, and kind of go through all their albums and the Run Kid Run, even though Mike only said Run Kid Run. So you're getting 2 for the price of 1 here, Mike. Anyways, but yeah, Past Remains, actually a really good album. I was going to say some songs that I really liked. Not Getting Off, I'll Be Waiting on the Southside Tracks, which was my favorite song on this album and the last album, 2 Steps Forward, 5 Steps Back. So I'll Be Waiting on Southside Tracks, really good song. I really enjoyed that one. One of my favorite I've heard so far, or I've heard all their songs now. Ode to Dispossession, Holy Matrimony, and Past Remains, and Every Day. So a lot of songs I really enjoyed off that album that I noted on my list here anyway. So yeah, definitely check that out. Past Remains by Sidewalk Slam. I think it's one of their best albums in my opinion. Their next album in 2002. So again, every year they're making an album at this point. But their next album is called Give Back. So Give Back, I didn't like as much as Past Remains, I don't think. Let me see if I can find it here. So Give Back I liked actually a lot too. I gave it an 8.5 as well. So 2 albums in a row, Past Remains and Get Back, I really liked. I gave 8.5 out of 10s on those 2 albums. Again, it's just very catchy upbeat music. I really like that kind of music too. There's really not a lot of ballads or any. They don't really change up their style too much. I think maybe that's maybe the only big issue I think I would have with the band is all the songs really start sounding the same. And I can say, or I can. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people would listen to this music and say every song sounds the same and maybe not give it a good review. I can kind of get that. The songs do sound very similar. They have a very similar style to them. But again, very catchy music, very fun music, very upbeat. I overall enjoy it. See, my favorite song on that album is called All I Have. I thought it was really great. I also really liked 1 Year. That Day Still Lingers in My Mind. Moving Out were the other songs I really liked on the album. So again, a number of really good songs there. And overall, another really good album that I really recommend called Get Back. And their fourth and actually last album with Sidewalk Slam is called And We Drive. This one I gave an 8 out of 10. So again, very good score. It's one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't say necessarily they have real high highs. Like I wouldn't say their best material, like I said, isn't as good as like the bands that you're familiar with, like Green Day or whatever. It's not up to that level as far as rock music goes. I don't know why I'm saying Green Day. I guess I'm kind of comparing the two a little bit. I would say it's not even as good as Reliant K, my favorite stuff from them. But it's very consistently pretty good throughout the album. Like there's no real lows. There's not a bunch of songs I'm like, wow, I really hated that song. They're all like, yeah, that was pretty good. There's a couple that really stand out. Most of them probably won't stand out too much. It'll be like, yeah, that was pretty catchy. It was pretty nicely done, I think, instrumentally and all that. So, like I said, lead singer, good voice. Not like the greatest voice, but still, I thought really good. Like, I really enjoyed him overall. If you go on like YouTube, you can find some concert footage of this band playing some songs. There's actually a couple of music videos you can find as well that are decent. I did find one video of the lead singer and guitar player during COVID playing some of the songs on acoustic guitar, and I thought it would sound really good. Like I thought, and his guitar playing was really good too. It was just him on acoustic guitar playing some of his songs from the band, and I was real impressed because I was like, wow, I thought he sang really well. I thought his guitar playing was really well, so I was kind of overall impressed. So you can find some of their stuff on YouTube, which was actually kind of cool to see them play, more live stuff. And I always like seeing bands in their live material sometimes, see how they sound in a live setting. And We Drive, like I said, it's not as good as the last two. I give it an 8 out of 10. Still, though, a pretty solid album that came out in 2003. Let's see. I liked And We Drive. The title song was good. When I'm Gone, Back to You, Stand Alone, and Forever Yours were some of my favorites on that album. So still some pretty good stuff there. Anyway, so that's their run with Sidewalk Slam as a punk rock, pop punk rock band, I guess you could say. So in 2006, the band reformed, I guess. They decided to do away with, I would say they did away with the punk sound, but they still were rock, still Christian pop rock instead of pop punk. Not a big difference, but just maybe a slight difference as a band. And so they kind of reformed in 2006 as Run Kid Run. So Run Kid Run really starts in 2006. So Sidewalk Slam 1996 to 2006, they changed to Run Kid Run. Like I said, more of a rock style, less punk and more in the rock genre, I guess, which are both rock, but you know what I mean. So they do 3 albums in total. They've only done 3 albums. Like I said, they're not a hugely, I think, known band in even Christian rock circles that I know of. Like I said, the 3 albums they have, This Is Who We Are, came out in 2006. This reached number 33 in the U.S. Christian charts, so it did well there. And 2008, they have Love at the Core, which ranked number 32 in U.S. Christian charts. And their biggest song from that album was called Freedom. And that was kind of their big song on the radio from what I researched. I'd never heard of it. I didn't recognize it or whatever. So I don't know how big it wasn't like a big number 1 hit, I'm guessing. But evidently it was on the Christian radio. So that was kind of their one song that kind of maybe made it. And then their last album was called Patterns, which came out in 2011, and that was their last album as a band. So they haven't been playing music, or they haven't made any albums since 2011. So it's been a little while, 14 years or so, that they haven't And again, I haven't found a lot of research to say I don't know what happened to him after that album. I think maybe they still went on and played gigs and all that, but and they might have went their separate ways at this point. I'm sure because it's been a little while and all that. But all these from these three albums, I would say "This Is Who We Are," really good album. That's actually my favorite album of the whole group of albums I've listened to from them. I give it a 9 out of 10. So 9. So I mean, I really love that album. I think it was a really good pop rock album, and I'm a fan of pop rock, so it definitely was an album that that was definitely my style of music. So I mean, I'd say kudos to Mike for picking a band that, even though I never heard of it, it is my kind of styles of music that I enjoy. So he picked actually a pretty good band, especially one that said seems kind of like an obscure band I never knew. And of course, I'd like to hear from Mike what if he has a favorite album or song of theirs that he can shout out, or if he recognizes any of the stuff that I'm saying. But yeah, my favorite song from "This Is Who We Are" is called "The Call Out." I thought it was really good. There's a number of songs I really enjoyed off this album. "We've Only Just Begun," I think was the opener. I thought it was a really good rocking opener. "Move On," "Wake Up, Get Up." The Modern March, yeah, was really good. I remember really enjoying that. And like I said, The Call Out was also really, really excellent. So yeah, a lot of excellent songs on that. Definitely recommend "This Is Who We Are." Is, I think, a really good Christian pop rock album to check out. So their second album, "Love at the Core," I don't know why I didn't like it nearly as much. I gave it an 8 out of 10. So still, I gave it a good score. It was hard to give a bad score because, again, all the music was very catchy and very like upbeat. Again, I think this album especially, I really kind of started feeling like the songs weren't really standing out as much as some of the other albums, and they're all kind of sounding the same because they all have that kind of same generic kind of rock sound. I hate to say generic, but it is a bit of a generic kind of rock sound that you hear out of like a Christian worship band, I guess, at this time. Still, I gave it a good score, 8 out of 10. My favorite song was "Sure Shot." Let's see. I enjoyed "Sure Shot." No, that was the only song I have on it. Yeah, so "Sure Shot's" the only song I really even wrote down that it was like a really good song off the album. So I didn't really enjoy a lot of it. Like, the songs were fine, but not nearly as good as some of the other stuff from the other albums. And so their last album, "Patterns," I actually gave an 8.5. Again, I thought it was actually a really solid album as their last album. So I don't know what happened to them, why they never caught on as a big band. Again, I couldn't find much research on them. I wish I knew more about what happened with them and why they maybe broke up, or why they didn't make any more music, or why they didn't make it big in the Christian rock genre. The "Patterns," I thought actually it was a very solid album. "Daylight" was my favorite song off of that album. I really liked "Last Hurrah," "Back to the Basics," and "My King." The very last song, "My King," was actually a really good closer to the album, and had a little more of a, obviously it's Christian music, so you get stuff like "My King," which is talking about Jesus and all that. But I didn't really notice like all like, even though it was about Jesus or it was about Christianity, I didn't pay as much attention to the lyrics. It was just really catchy, fun music to me. But yeah, "Daylight" I thought was really excellent. Of course, my favorite off that anyway. So yeah, so those are their three albums. All three solid. All I gave 9, 8, 8.5. Even their Sidewalk Slam albums, I was kind of surprised. I thought, oh, I wasn't expecting to like any of their stuff, but I kind of, in fact, I'll be honest, I wasn't like really into it at first. It took me about 3 listens before I was really like, you know what, this is really nice music. Super catchy. I like the lead singer. Instrumentally, I think it's, pretty good. I wouldn't like to say top tier rock music, necessarily, but overall very nice. Anyway, so yeah, overall I would say it's not a bad band to check out if you like like I said, pop rock music or pop punk music. Most of their albums, like I said, I give pretty much all their albums a good score, except for the first one. That's only because a lot of their best stuff came on the second album. So it's like, why even listen to the first album when their best songs are on the second one and sound even better? But yeah, like I said, my favorite album was "This Is Who We Are." My second was "Past Remains." third, Patterns, fourth, Get Back, fifth, Amy Drive, sixth, Love at the Core, and seven, Two Steps Forward, Five Steps Back was my least favorite out of them, but still lots of good stuff there. So thanks, Mike, for suggesting this band for me to check out and, you know, get to review for the first time. And just thank you so much for helping my channel and participating in the Oscar predicting contest. I appreciate you doing that. And, you know, I really love doing that contest, and I appreciate anybody that, you know, takes the time to enter in. I hope I get more people next time. And maybe, Mike, you can get number one next time. You've actually done better each year. You've actually improved quite a bit. So besides that, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for liking it. Thank to all my supporters for all of my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate it all and hope you have a good day.